Welcome to the Stoic tide. Most men destroy attraction the moment they open their mouth. They think a compliment is supposed to win her over, when in reality, the wrong words are what make her yawn, roll her eyes, and file you away as just another guy. Tell her she's beautiful. She's heard it 1,000 times since she was 15. Tell her she's gorgeous. That line is tattooed on her ears by every desperate man who thought flattery was the key. But here's the raw truth. Most compliments kill desire because they come from weakness. They come from a man seeking validation instead of a man radiating presence. The forbidden compliments, the ones I'm about to reveal, are different. They don't sound like praise. They sound like possession, like danger, like insight that pierces straight into her soul. They make her feel exposed, alive, and unable to forget you. That's why they're forbidden. Because society tells men to play it safe, to be nice, to be polite. And yet, safety never stirred passion in a woman. Forbidden words did. Have you ever noticed how the men women obsess over are rarely the ones who give the obvious compliments? They don't say you're hot. They say something that lingers, something that makes her think about him hours later in the dark, when no one else is around. That's the territory we're entering now. Not the cheap, obvious lines, but the magnetic compliments that make her crave you. Brother, let me make this clear from the start. A compliment is not about her. It's about you. It's not about praising her beauty. It's about showing the depth of your perception, the weight of your presence, the sharpness of your masculine frame. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." The same is true with women. A shallow man gives shallow compliments. A magnetic man gives compliments that dye her soul with his presence. Most men never understand this. They hand out compliments like loose change, desperate for attention, desperate for a smile, desperate to be liked. And every time they do it, they bleed away their value. Because women aren't starving for praise, they're drowning in it. What they're starving for is truth. A compliment that feels dangerous because it cuts deeper than the surface. A compliment that feels rare because it reflects something no other man has ever noticed. That is how a woman falls into obsession. Not by being told she's pretty, but by being told something she can't forget. So tonight, I'm giving you 7 forbidden compliments. 7 lines women will never admit they want, but secretly crave. Each one is rooted in psychology, sharpened by philosophy, and forged in fire. Delivered correctly, they'll make women lean in, blush, and remember you long after you've left. Delivered weakly, they'll expose you as another boy trying too hard. That's the razor's edge you must walk as a man. Do it right, and she won't just like you, she crave you. Forbidden compliment 1. You're trouble, aren't you? The first forbidden compliment isn't about flattery. It's about framing. When you look at a woman with that calm, unshaken presence and say, "You're trouble, aren't you?" You're not praising her, you're labeling her. You're telling her you see through the surface, that you recognize the chaos behind her beauty. And here's the psychological twist. Every woman wants to feel like trouble. She doesn't want to be the nice girl. She wants to be the storm that a strong man can handle. Most men play it safe. They tell her she's sweet, she's beautiful, she's lovely. But safe words bore her. Safe words place you in the same box as the last 10 men she ignored. The forbidden compliment flips the frame. You're not worshipping her. You're challenging her. You're making her prove that she's as dangerous, as exciting, as intoxicating as you say. And in that moment, you've created tension, the fuel of attraction. I'll give you a real story. Tom, 48, divorced, sitting across from a younger woman at a wine bar. She's teasing him, testing his composure, trying to get a rise. Most men would laugh nervously or compliment her looks to stay in her good graces. Tom didn't. He leaned back, smiled faintly, and said, "You're trouble, aren't you?" Silence, then laughter. Then the floodgates opened. She leaned closer, lowered her voice, and admitted, "Maybe I am." That's when he knew the frame had shifted. He wasn't trying to impress her. She was trying to live up to the image he had just painted. Why does this work? Psychology tells us that identity is magnetic. When you assign a woman an identity, trouble, chaos, danger, she feels compelled to either reject it or embody it. And 9 times out of 10, if it's framed as attractive, she embody it. Because women crave permission to unleash the wild side they hide from the world. You're not giving her a compliment. You're giving her freedom. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When you drop this compliment, remember, you don't control her. You don't force her to be trouble. You simply recognize the possibility and let her decide whether she'll live into it. That restraint, that control over your own frame, is what makes it irresistible. So here's the shift, brother. Stop complimenting her beauty like a desperate boy. Stop being safe. When the moment is right, when her eyes spark with mischief, lean in with calm confidence and say, "You're trouble, aren't you?" Say it as a statement, not a question seeking approval. If she laughs, if she blushes, if she leans closer, you've just ignited a fire no boring compliment ever could. Forbidden compliment, too. You've got a dangerous smile. This one cuts sharper than any "you're beautiful" ever could. Because it's not about her lips, her teeth, or the obvious surface-level compliment. It's about the effect she has on you. When you look her in the eye and say, "You've got a dangerous smile," you're telling her that her beauty is powerful, disarming, even risky. And that flips the dynamic instantly. Suddenly, you're not admiring her like every other man. You're warning yourself about the effect she has on you. That warning makes her feel powerful, desired, and unforgettable. Here's the psychology. Women are addicted to the impact they have, not just the features they carry. Any random man can notice her eyes. Any stranger can mention her curves. But very few men notice the ripple effect. How her smile makes a room pause. How it makes you drop your guard. How it tempts you to step into danger willingly. When you frame her smile as dangerous, you elevate it beyond beauty. You turn it into a weapon. And every woman wants to believe she has that kind of weapon over a man. Picture this. Alex, 51, confident, weathered by life, sitting across from a younger woman at dinner. She flashes a playful grin after teasing him. Most men would laugh nervously, maybe compliment her looks again, trying to pile on more validation. Alex didn't. He took a sip of his drink, held her gaze steady, and said with a faint smirk, "You've got a dangerous smile." She blinked, tilted her head, and asked, "Dangerous how?" Right there, he had her. She wasn't thinking about rejecting him. She was now invested in proving just how dangerous she could be. Epictetus once said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Her smile is what happens to you. Your reaction determines whether you become another forgettable admirer or the rare man who sees the storm behind the sunshine. By calling it dangerous, you're showing her you notice the power beneath the surface. You're not resisting it. You're acknowledging it, almost daring it to grow stronger. So here's your shift. Stop complimenting the obvious. Don't tell her she has a pretty smile. That's what the grocery store cashier says. Instead, when the moment is right, when she flashes that grin that makes your pulse quicken, lean in with calm presence and say, "You've got a dangerous smile." Deliver it slow, steady, like you're revealing a secret, and watch how her demeanor shifts. She'll lean into that role. She test it, play with it, and most importantly, she'll remember you for making her feel powerful and alive. Forbidden compliment 3. I like the way your mind works. This compliment is forbidden because most men never go near it. They keep women trapped on the surface, looks, beauty, curves, and while those things catch her attention, they don't capture her soul. The moment you say, "I like the way your mind works," you separate yourself from the pack. You're telling her that what draws you in isn't just what she shows the world, but the hidden machinery behind her thoughts, her wit, her perspective. And for a woman, that's intoxicating. Psychology explains why this lands so hard. Women, especially younger ones, are used to being reduced to objects of beauty. They're praised for their bodies, their faces, their style, but rarely for their intelligence, creativity, or insight. By pointing to her mind, you're validating the part of her that is both deeply personal and often overlooked. You're saying, "I see more than what's in front of me. I see how you think, and I want more of it." That recognition isn't just attractive, it's addictive. Let's put it into practice. Picture Daniel, 46, on a first date with a woman in her late 20s. They're talking about books, about life, about the way people behave. She makes an offhand remark about how people post happiness online to hide their misery in private. Most men would nod, laugh, maybe agree quickly and move on. Daniel didn't. He leaned in, let a beat of silence pass, and said, "I like the way your mind works." Instantly, her expression changed. Her walls lowered. She realized he wasn't just hearing her, he was listening. And from that moment, the conversation went from small talk to intimacy. Seneca once said, "The greatest wealth is to live content with little." In the same way, the greatest connection isn't found in the grand gestures, but in the smallest recognition. When you tell her you like the way her mind works, you're giving her the rarest gift, the feeling of being understood. And women crave understanding more than they crave flattery. So here's your shift. Stop being the man who only sees the obvious. Next time she says something sharp, witty, or insightful, don't let it slide. Hold her gaze, let the weight of your silence sink in, and then say, "I like the way your mind works." Say it like you mean it, slow and deliberate. She'll feel exposed in the best way possible, because you've just noticed a part of her most men are blind to. Forbidden compliment 4. You've got a fire in you. This one hits different because it's not about beauty, not about charm, not even about her personality, it's about her essence. When you look a woman in the eye and say, "You've got a fire in you," you're not describing what she looks like. You're describing the raw energy that burns behind her words, her movements, her presence. And here's why it's forbidden. Most men are afraid of a woman's fire. They try to tame it, control it, or ignore it. A real man acknowledges it and dares to stand next to it. Psychology tells us that women crave recognition of their strength as much as their beauty. Beneath every confident smile, every bold move, there's a woman who wants her passion, her drive, her intensity to be noticed. By naming the fire, you validate the part of her she secretly hopes someone can handle. And here's the twist. Once you've acknowledged it, she feels compelled to show you more of it. The compliment doesn't just describe her, it unlocks her. Picture this. Michael, 50, is out with a younger woman who's talking about her career ambitions. She's fiery, animated, speaking with conviction. Most men in that moment would nod politely, maybe compliment her looks to redirect the conversation back to safer ground. But Michael didn't. He watched her, steady, calm, and then said, "You've got a fire in you." She froze for half a second, then smiled wide. That one line told her he wasn't intimidated by her passion, he was drawn to it. From that moment, her energy didn't shrink, it doubled. She leaned into him, eager to see if he could keep up with her flame. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything thrown into it." That's what a woman's fire is. It consumes, it transforms, it burns through mediocrity. And by recognizing it, you're not just complimenting her, you're telling her she's powerful, dangerous, and alive. Few men have the strength to say it. Even fewer can hold the frame steady after saying it. That's what makes it forbidden, and that's what makes it magnetic. So here's your shift. When you see that passion, don't shrink. Don't change the subject. Don't try to tone it down. Lock in, hold her gaze, and say, "You've got a fire in you." Say it like a man who respects the flame, not fears it. And watch how she burns brighter in your presence, because finally, she's met a man who doesn't try to put her fire out, but who's willing to stand close enough to feel the heat. Forbidden compliment 5. You make chaos look good. This one is dangerous because it breaks the rules of how men are taught to see women. Most men try to box women into neat categories: sweet, stable, easy, predictable. But a woman isn't made of neat boxes. She is contradiction, spontaneity, mood swings, unpredictability. Most men are terrified of that chaos. They either run from it or complain about it. But when you look at her and say, "You make chaos look good," you're doing something forbidden. You're not resisting her nature. You're admiring it. Psychology makes this clear. Women don't want to be put in cages of perfection. They want freedom to be messy, wild, emotional, and still desired. When you frame her chaos as beautiful, you're telling her she doesn't need to hide it. She doesn't need to put on a mask of stability to be wanted. You see her storms, and instead of fearing them, you're drawn to them. That makes her feel safe to reveal her true self. And that, brother, is intoxicating. Imagine this: Richard, 52, sitting across from a younger woman at a cafe. She's telling a story, animated, dramatic, her hands flying everywhere, her emotions spilling out like an untamed river. Most men would laugh awkwardly or change the subject to calm her down. Richard didn't. He leaned back, smiled, and said, "You make chaos look good." She stopped, tilted her head, and laughed. In that moment, she didn't feel judged. She felt celebrated, and instead of pulling back, she leaned further in because he showed her he could stand in the storm without flinching. The Stoics taught us that chaos is inevitable. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Her moods, her unpredictability, those are outside events. Your reaction, that's inside your control. When you compliment her chaos, you're not surrendering to it. You're mastering your reaction to it. And that mastery is what makes her respect you. So here's the shift. Don't run from her storms. Don't mock them. Don't complain about them. When she's wild, expressive, unpredictable, hold steady and deliver the line with a calm smile. You make chaos look good. Say it like a man who isn't fazed, who isn't rattled, who sees beauty where others see inconvenience. That's the forbidden frame, and that's why she'll never forget you. Forbidden compliment 6. You feel like trouble I'd risk. This is not a compliment for the faint of heart. It's not something you throw out lightly. It's a line that combines tension, attraction, and a hint of surrender, but delivered with strength, not desperation. When you look at a woman and say, "You feel like trouble I'd risk," you're admitting something dangerous, that she tempts you. Every woman fears being forgettable. Psychologically, this works because it taps into permanence. Compliments about beauty fade. Compliments about charm vanish. But when you frame her presence as unforgettable, you speak to the core of her feminine desire, to be remembered, to live on in a man's mind. You're telling her she isn't just attractive in the moment, she's haunting. She has weight, she has gravity, and women crave to be seen as unforgettable more than they crave to be seen as pretty. Let me give you an example. Mark, 55, after a date with a younger woman, walks her to her car. He doesn't flood her with validation. He doesn't chase or beg. Instead, as they pause for a moment, he leans slightly, locks eyes, and says, "You've got a presence that lingers." Then he smiles, kisses her cheek, and walks away without another word. What happens next? She sits in her car, stunned, replaying that line over and over. She texts him first the next day. Why? Because he didn't just notice her beauty, he noticed her impact. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What we do now echoes in eternity." The same is true in attraction. What you say, what you notice, what you highlight, it echoes long after the moment is gone. When you frame her presence as lingering, you make her feel eternal, timeless, unforgettable. And that's a compliment no woman can resist. So here's the shift. Stop giving compliments that die in the air. Don't just say, "She looks good tonight." Don't just say, "She has a nice laugh." Look deeper. Wait until the moment slows, until the silence hangs heavy, and then say, "You've got a presence that lingers." Deliver it with calm conviction, then pull back. Leave her with the weight of your words. Because when you do this, she won't just think of you as the man who noticed her. She'll think of you as the man she cannot shake from her mind. Brother, let me leave you with this truth. Forbidden compliments are not lines. They are not tricks. They are reflections of your presence. Any boy can say, "You're beautiful," but only a man can look into a woman's eyes, see her essence, and put it into words she's never heard before. That's what makes them forbidden. Because they demand that you be different. They demand that you see beyond the surface. And they demand that you deliver them with the calm strength of a man who doesn't need her validation. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you give shallow compliments, you dye her soul with forgettable colors. But when you drop the forbidden compliments, you etch yourself into her memory with fire. You don't just make her smile for a second. You make her feel something that lingers, something that gnaws at her long after you've gone. That's what women crave, not empty words, but the man behind them. So understand this. These 7 compliments only work if you do. They only work if you deliver them from presence, from stillness, from power. Used weakly, they sound like lines. Used with strength, they sound like prophecy. And women always remember the man who spoke like he already knew her soul. Now it's your turn. Don't just sit there. Take this code, use it, and watch how women look at you differently. And if you're ready to stop being the forgettable man who hands out the same compliments she's heard 1,000 times, I want you to prove it. Drop this phrase in the comments right now. Forbidden presence. Because that's what this is about. Presence, not begging, not flattering, not chasing. Presence that cuts through the noise. Presence that makes her crave you without understanding why. Subscribe, brother. This isn't just a channel. This is the brotherhood. Men sharpening each other. Men rising above weakness. Men who refuse to live as invisible. Please like and subscribe for more insight.